and CEO of Portland General Electric. And today I'm joined by Larry Bekkedahl, our Vice President of Grid Architecture, Integration and Systems Operation, as well as Dale Goodman, our Director of Utility Operations, and Quintin Gaddis, our Senior Director of Substation and Meter Operations. We have an update on where things stand today. As we begin, I would like to underscore the scope and magnitude of this storm and its impact on restoration of service to date. Just as a point of comparison, this storm is 10 times more devastating than the high winds and wildfire event that we experienced over the Labor Day period of time. I'm proud and appreciative of the tireless work that our crews and teams are doing to restore power to all customers. As our crews are finding that in many places, significant repair work is warranted, which dramatically slows our ability to get power back on. To date, we have restored over 620,000 customers. We have additional 60,000 customers still without power. Crews are continuing to work around the clock to repair equipment until your power is back on. Even if you do not see crews working in your neighborhoods, please know that we have over 350 crews working on restorations. These include line crews, vegetation management, safety crews, among many others. I would now like to turn it over to Larry for a damage assessment overview and a high-level analysis. Larry?
Thank you, Maria, and good afternoon to all of you. As Maria had mentioned, the damage to our system is 10 times that which we experienced in the devastating Labor Day wildfire storm this fall. When we look back on the series of storms, the 3 waves of this storm were sequential and created significant damage across our system. The first wave, starting last Thursday evening, began with snow and wind. That was followed by the second wave on Friday night and again Sunday night, and those 2 waves were devastating. By Saturday morning, we awoke to 250,000 customers who were out of power. This is by far the most destructive ice event in 40 years. That ice coated our wires and trees, and the thousands of pounds of ice made significant damage across our lines, our poles, and clearly the trees throughout our service territory. Due to the extremely dangerous conditions, as a result of falling trees and limbs, we were unable to safely send crews to the hardest hit areas for the first 48 hours. We had 3 straight days of hazardous conditions as a result of the vegetation damage, slowing our ability to make progress. One of the aspects that has made restoration on this more complicated than other storms was the damage to our transmission system. As you may know, transmission lines are far back in the process of how we get power to homes and businesses and impacts thousands of customers. In many cases, we had to address transmission repairs before we could get to repairing the neighborhood feeders and distribution wires customers saw down and around their homes and their communities. Our transmission was heavily damaged in the epicenter of the storm. The impacted service from Colton to North Marion County, from Salem to Oregon City. To date, we've repaired 330 miles of transmission lines, and with every mile, we discover additional damage. Today, we are unveiling a new online tool for customers. With the damage assessments we have done to date, we are able to provide more information on estimated restoration times. The map will include our best estimates of how long these customers will continue to be out of power, depending upon the customer's location and the extent of the damage. So as you see on the map, the dots representing outages, and you can see the areas that were impacted the heaviest. But again, as we mentioned, the wooded areas, the hard to access areas, the severely damaged areas, those are going to be the hardest for us to be able to reach and restore customers and their power. We recognize how frustrating and challenging this is for our customers. I want to assure you that we are working around the clock and we're deploying more field workers than ever before in our history. With close to 225 crews, that in a system that we normally run 70 crews, we are putting our best foot forward and making sure that every customer is served and done so safely. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Maria. Maria?
Melissa, I'm not sure Larry was able to hear.
Okay.
Let me address the question. The question what pertained to outlying areas in and around the Salem area, particularly South Marion. Some of those are at the hardest hit epicenter of the storm, and we've seen tremendous power poles being knocked down, but the number of trees that are down in that area is making restoration very, very challenging. We hope to have as many customers back up today. We will work tirelessly through the weekend, but there are some customers in that area whose outages will go into the early part of next week, as well as potentially beyond. On the website, you'll be able to see exactly your area. You'll be able to see the damage that needs to be addressed to give you a better indication of when the power will be back on. As we learn more, particularly in these hardest hit areas, we will update that information to give customers the greatest sense of an understanding of when their power will come back on. Thank you.
Maria, this is a good one for you. Lindsay Nedrich from K2. Yesterday, you said the goal was to be down to 15,000 customers without power by tonight. Is that still the case?
Absolutely. We are doing everything we can to meet that goal. I will tell you, it is going to be really challenging, and we will continue working through the night and into the weekend, not only to hit that goal, but to ensure that every single customer is back on power.
Great. Larry, this is a good question for you, potentially, or even Dale. Could you, from Bekkedahl, could you let us know how the I-5 or
The I-5 project last night went very, very well. It was a 4-hour shutdown of I-5, but the work was all completed on time, and we really appreciate all of the help that ODOT provided to make sure that we could do that job safely and return power to those customers in and around that area. So thank you.
Next question.
I'm not seeing anymore. Here we go. Lindsay, again, from K2. Larry, or maybe Dale, we learned 60 poles were down in Clackamas River Valley. Is there a shortage of poles? Do you have enough materials for all of the work?
We do. We have enough material that we need right now to get the work done. We just took delivery of over 200 poles yesterday, and we have more on the way. We have plenty of poles, cross arms, and various equipment that we need to complete those jobs. They're very labor intensive. Obviously, you have to take the pole out that was there, but you have to replant it, you have to reframe it and restring it. And before that, we have to remove all the vegetation, the tons of vegetation that are on top of these bad events.
I want to emphasize that we have brought in equipment and crews from neighboring states as far away as Montana, and extra supplies and materials from as far away as Southern California and other areas. The magnitude of the damage that we've seen is unprecedented, and we are leaning and partnering with our utility peers, with agencies and others to ensure that we can get the power back on as absolutely quickly as possible.
We have another question from Christine at KGW News. Is the website you've talked about live, and And if not, when can we expect to see it? And also, how many customers without power in Silverton and Marion County at this time?
Well, that's a good question with regards to the website. It should be up shortly, if not already. And so we will keep you posted on that. Larry, let me ask you about the specific outages.
So Marion County, and I'm looking for, I believe it was 21,000 customers still in Marion County. And about 12,000 of those are in Salem itself. And so that's a portion. I'm not sure if I gathered all of Marion County, but it's fairly close to that for Marion County. But Salem itself was 12,000 customers right now.
And how about Silverton, Larry?
Silverton is about 2,400 customers in the Silverton area. It is one of the hardest hit areas. The number of poles that are down in that area with trees and vegetation, that's one of the hardest areas. And currently we have 5 crews there that are doing restoration, but we're also trying to reach other areas throughout the service territory and return as many customers as we can as quickly as we can.
We have another question from Lindsay. Dale, this is for you. We saw crews working on Highway 43 today. Can you give an estimate for power restoration in that area? People there have been out for 7 days now.
The Highway 43 damage is very extensive. Getting the permitting and the road access has been challenging. We expect to make really good progress on that section of the 43 in the next 24 hours.
Follow-up question from Christine at KGW News. Is there priority for seniors who have been without power and heat for a week now? Any attempts to reach out?
Absolutely. From the very beginning of this crisis, we emphasized hospitals, we emphasized water treatment facilities, we emphasized elder care facilities, and we've received information with regards to citizens living alone in their homes who are older. And we are working with many of the communities that we partner with to identify those individuals and to make sure that they are safe and doing okay. We are prioritizing the most vulnerable in our community and ensuring that we can get their power back on as quickly as possible. In addition to partnering with local communities and leaders, we have also partnered with the governor and other agencies to ensure that people are as taken care of as well as they can be during these very difficult times.
Great. Question from Brent Dahl. Are the 911 systems operational in the large outage areas such as Woodburn, Hubbard, et cetera?
Yes, that is an area that we prioritized and was brought back early on in the crisis, and it's all operating.
Great. We have a question from Kyle Aboshi. Could you please elaborate on road access issues on Highway 43? Dale, do you want to take that? He's asking for context around, did those issues delay repairs, et cetera?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was the last part of that?
People have been asking around, did the issues on the road access issues on Highway 43 delay the repairs?
There were some delays on the repairs, but those have been moved out of the way, and we have full access now to get after it and get that work done.
Thank you. We have the next question is from Raymond Redelman. Milwaukee Gladstone. Larry, this is a good one for you. Milwaukee Gladstone was one of the hardest hit areas. We heard there are currently approximately 12,000 households without power, and it looks like PGE has only 8 crews working in the area. All of Multnomah County currently has 8,000 outages, yet 55 crews to restore power. Could you give context on why the higher ratio of crews to outages in other places than Milwaukee and Gladstone?
And Milwaukee has itself about 9,000. I don't have the number for Gladstone, and we'll have to get back with additional information. I don't have the crew numbers for that area in front of me, so I'll have to.
I can say this. I was just going to add that we have 26 crews in the Oregon City area, which is right across the Clackamas River from Gladstone. So some of these crews will interact with the Gladstone crews as our grid interacts with both communities. So that number of 6 is complemented by the folks working in Oregon City as well.
Might add that as we finish work, we move them quickly to the areas. And so some of those numbers were from this morning earlier. And so as crews finish work, they move to the other populous areas and trying to finish that work there.
Dale, another good question for you from Lindsay at K2. Did I hear you say you couldn't get to the hardest hit areas for the first couple of days because of damages? And are you still concerned about trees falling or unstable limbs in those areas? Could you expand on some of the challenges crews are up against?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I appreciate that question. Yeah, you know, I've been in this business 31 years, and you know, this is the worst damage I've ever seen. The first 48 hours of this storm were unlike any other. We could not approach so many areas of our service territory due to the dangers that existed with the falling trees, the falling limbs, and other vegetation. We just could not get to them. Our rigs were chained up. We were ready to go. And the guys and women wanted to all get after this and get this restoration beginning. But because of those dangers, there was many areas we could not approach. It was not safe for our employees. So we went to the less damaged areas that they could work and work there. So that's not, typically our storms don't come in 3 waves. They typically come in generally one big wave, and then we're restoring directly after. This wasn't the case for us. For us would be considered a very slow start to our response, but only because of the safety of our crews and the situation that was at hand. So we had that as a challenge right off the bat. And then the storms passed, and now you have hundreds and hundreds of limbs that are still hanging in trees that broke but have not hit the ground. So as our crews go into these areas, we have over 75 timber crews out there clearing timber. Everyone has got to look up, and they have to clear these let's call them widowmaker limbs that weigh hundreds of pounds that they can't work underneath these limbs. So you have a compound effect there. You have the line down because of the tree that fell, and now you want to go in and you want to remove that tree, but you have to look up, and you may have 2 or 3 limbs that are hanging up there right above you. So now you have to deal with that, and that creates much more work. So there's more, you add 2 to 3 hours to each job, just getting those hanging out of the way.
Thanks, Dale. Quintin, this is a question for you. What is the best way for people to express some thanks or gratitude to the subcontractors and PGE crew?
That's a good one, because everyone is working so hard. Everyone wants to do the best they can for the customer. They've left their families to come out and get this work done so everyone can have their power restored. What I would say is a simple thank you. If you see them, and if you could just allow them to do the work safely, complete the work, and then once they are done, you can thank them, because we want them to be in stride right now, and that's what they want to do. But a simple thank you, it will go a long way. Thank you.
Thanks, Quintin. A quick follow-up on that. Some communities are reporting that they don't see crews in their neighborhoods. Could you help explain that?
Is that one for me?
Quintin, I'll repeat the question for you. There are some people who are reporting that they're not seeing crews in their neighborhoods. Can you explain what type of restoration is going on, even if they're not seeing people?
So just because you don't see people in your neighborhood doesn't mean that we're not making strides to get the power restored. Right now, this is a strategic process that we have to go through. So if you don't see someone in your neighborhood, it means that we're allocating resources to places that we can bring up more customers at one time. And it may be that the work in another area has to be done in order for us to put this puzzle together to get to the customer that isn't in service. So that's the best I can say for that, because it all has to come together. So where the work is going to get us to the customer eventually. Thank you.
And please know that we will work tirelessly with our crews in the field 24/7 until all customers are restored.
We have another question coming in from Lindsay. For people without internet, we heard crews can't get in there to restore that until after PGE crews are done. Is that the case? Dale?
So
Sounds like there's a Comcast outage happening or some internet outage happening.
Maybe Dale, if you want.
yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Might comment on that really quickly. So internet service, and if I have a phone, I have a computer that I do have a battery and is operating. The Comcast towers typically 5-hour backup unless they have generation. And so those areas, again, that are energized, if the tower is operating, then they'll be able to get a signal. They'll be able to run internet, if they've got the phone on battery or their computer. We might also mention that the community resource centers that have been made available, and we are encouraging people to go there to charge up their phones or their computers if they have access to that center. So would encourage that, but should operate unless the tower is de-energized, and that's usually for more than 5 hours before it actually goes down if they don't have a generator at the site. Most of our sites now, I'm understanding they do have cell phone coverage.
And please know that we have a number of community resource centers available. You can take a look on our website and find the one that is closest to you to get the support that you need.
Okay, with that, it looks like we're wrapped with questions.
Thank you very much for joining Larry Bekkedahl, Quintin Gaddis, and Dale Goodman and myself this afternoon. We fully appreciate the inconvenience and frustration that not having the electricity on for all of our customers presents. We're working tirelessly with crews from outside of the state and materials from across the West to get your power on as fast as possible and your lives back to restoration. And we appreciate your patience and thank you so much for your time today.